Welcome to the second block of the Strength and Power Athletic Development Program for the adults. We're going to talk you through the exercises we'd like you to do in the next block. Some of them are the same to what you've previously done to encourage that movement competency, but also to keep you engaged. We've changed up some of the exercises. So we'll make progressions and regressions as we work through the program. We're going to talk you through one set. We would like you to do two and the third set on your own, but we'll talk you through progressions and regressions of each exercise. The first one you'll be familiar with. So Annie's our subject today. I'm going to talk you through a goblet squat. So if we use a weight on the first one, so you've seen this before, I would recommend that you use a bench for security. So if you want to squat that way, facing down, sitting back into it. Remember, the starting position is important here. Feet are wider than hip width apart, toes slightly pointed outward, and then squat back towards the bench or the box, whatever's behind you. You can use a chair at home, whatever's appropriate, and just you get into a nice range. Obviously, if you feel confident, you can take a few steps forward and do the same movement to the box, okay? So whatever you feel comfortable with. If you have no weight at home, this becomes a bodyweight squat, of course, and you can regress into the bench or just free weight, whatever it is. But if you have a light weight at home, we'd like you to use a weight. Now you keep the weight very close to your center mass, very close to your chest as you do this, and always look forward. So Annie's doing, its repetition here is 10 again. We're still on the high range of reps. So that was 10 reps of our goblet squat. Manipulate that how you want to in terms of its weight, in terms of the box, security, but to try and always get range, right? So get as low as you can. We're trying to get you to at least parallel to the floor, so here. So anything down there is kind of unnecessary, but anything in this range is what we're looking for on the squat at any point. Okay, the next one is a single leg eccentric squat. Okay, so when I say eccentric, it means the muscle is lengthening. So it means on the phase going down is our focus, right? So Annie's going to perform this on a bench or a box. So on one leg, just stabilize yourself on one leg and sit slowly back onto a box. The box can be as high as it is here, so it could be a chair, or it could be even a table, a low table, whatever you want for some support. You're just sitting back into it and then stepping up again. Now the options here are you step up with two legs or one leg. If you feel confident to step up on one leg, please feel free to step up in one leg. If you don't, so Annie can show you on a double leg, you can step up. The focus here is the downward fave, the eccentric component, which is just muscle lengthening. This is the most important thing. So we need this from a good movement point of view, but also an injury point of view also. So you can use your hands to counterbalance like Annie's doing and sitting as low as you can. Again, 10 reps here. Don't look for speed or quickness or tempo. It's just controlling the movement, finding your stability on one leg and then using your contraction of the muscles and control all the way down to the box and then come back up again. As I said, you can step up as any way you want. So 10 on each side. So if you want to change your sides once you've done 10, same thing here. Some common errors are the bottom foot, the foot on the floor is pointed inward or externally rotated. We want good alignment of the ankle, knee and hip. So the foot is the first point of contact, so that needs to be forward. You can see a line on the floor perhaps there. The toes is forward. And then after that, you're sitting down, nice control of the knee. The knee may fluctuate in and out. That's just your body trying to stabilize itself, so don't worry too much about that. If we have excessive knee valgus, which is the knee coming inwards, in towards the body, so the knee coming in like this, too much of that is not what we want. Okay, I said on the stability that we were looking for that control, so a little bit of movement in and out is not a problem for me. It's the nervous system trying to stabilize itself, and that's maybe why you're doing the exercise, and it could show you that it's a good adaptation from the exercise. Okay, the next one is the lateral lunge. Now you've done some of this before, but I want you to continue this. Again, body weight is fine for this one. Stepping to your left and sitting as low as you can, and then stepping to your right, sitting as low as you can. So if Annie tries this again, the repetition here is 10 reps. Sitting low, as low as you can. There'll be one side that perhaps is a bit harder than the other, and that's okay, but you're still working that range. After a while, you'll find yourself, it becomes easier. And what Annie's doing a little bit is stepping forward. So there's a little bit of a step forward to get her range. Now that's okay, but what I would like you to do is step completely lateral. So completely in the frontal plane, if you like. Stepping as low as you can. What's really good with Annie is that her feet are pointed forward. So when she steps, her feet are forward. They're not externally rotated, which can happen quite a lot. So stepping forward, sitting as low as you possibly can. If you don't mind for the camera, just turning to the side so we can see you. So just to look at the range she gets on the step. So she steps, which is good. So sitting low, again, looking for that parallel for the thigh, close to at least, if we can. but the feet are forward, and the other leg, the trail leg, which is always the leg that gets injured when you change direction, so the adductor on that leg, the grinds on that leg, is straight. That's very important. So you have extension of the hip there. It's not a bent knee going through the range. So that's important. So that's good. Again, if it's hard for you, you don't have to do it with weight. A nice progression or a nice regression is something a bit higher up, so you step onto the box so it's a little bit higher and you take out the momentum, so you sit into it like this. Imagine this is a bit higher, or you don't step into it, so you're already in the range and you're just sitting into it and come up. So you just find where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're hitting all those points with the feet forward and good range. Regress it and progress it how you see fit, but most importantly is the range is there, so you're getting good movement mechanics is the most important thing. Okay, the next one is a single leg glute bridge. So if you go on the floor, on the floor, anywhere, it's fine. So just so this one now is basically our posterior chain. As we said, we usually go through a double leg exercises, 2 single leg exercises, and now the posterior chain, which is a nice fancy word for saying the back of your legs. Okay, so this one is a glute. So set up in the glute bridge, but this time we're going to go single leg. So taking one leg off the floor. Now, at the minute, it can be wherever it wants to be, okay? But if you have the strength to keep it in that position, fine. You can bend the knee as well if you want, just once it's off the floor. I don't really mind too much on the trail leg or on the non-working leg. And raise your hips up off the floor, and then come down. Perfect. Good. And we said before about there's intricacies in this movement about rotating your pelvis all the way up and stuff. I'm not going to get carried away with that right now. All we're looking for here is that you get to the floor, you switch off. So when she comes down to the floor, she switches off, then regroups herself again and coming up. Now, what can happen here a lot of the time is you can see Annie's leg almost acting as a bit of an assistant on the way up. We'd rather keep that leg straight, and then everything has to come from that right hip. If you let that leg drive yourself up, you may take a little bit of the demand on the other hip, because there's momentum from the leg swinging up which drives you up. So keeping that leg sort of hovering but not driving the action. The action should be driven from the hip, and one tip here is to drive to the heel of the foot when you're coming up. That's important here. So you do again 10 reps of this, so the rep range is high, the movement is high. The amount of movement when I say is high, so a lot of exercise in this, but again it's just getting you back, it's the activity phase that we're in, getting you back to your sport as best and as safely as possible. So 10 reps here. Again, coming all the way up, so if you just do one more rep for me, so come all the way up, so make sure you're in line with the shoulder, hip and knee. That's kind of the height where we need to go to, and then you control down and all the way to the floor before coming back up again. Okay, good, and now we're onto a T-walk. So again, it's the second posterior chain exercise. So it's the second back of the legs, hamstrings that we're working on here. Okay. So on one leg, it's going to be quite challenging for some people. On one leg, you try and get yourself into a T. So the T is by the hands being out, getting a nice straight line, and that leg coming straight down. So that her left leg and her arms are making a T is basically what you're trying to do. Trying to get as close in your mind as you possibly can to a T. So the arms out and that leg straight. So ideally, this leg straight, those arms out in front, like a T. So the rep range here is 6, because it's quite a challenging movement. It's going to demand a lot on the hamstrings. It's going to demand a lot on your stability of the foot. It's going to lot on the range of your thoracic spine and your extension of your arms. So there's a lot going on here in this exercise. It's far more than just a posterior chain, although it's biased towards the hamstrings. So again, only 6 reps here. Work through the range as best you can. You'll find yourself struggling perhaps on the first 2 reps, and as you get used to the movement, as it becomes more familiar to the nervous system and the body and your whole system as a unit, it becomes a bit easier. And it's a great exercise to have. It's a great movement vocabulary to have in your locker. Because eventually we would like to load this exercise, but unless we gain complete control, you can see the leg is bent on the right leg, so not so good on this side, but she'll get better. She'll now extend the leg as best she can. So it's a better range, it's a better repetition the second time around, and you might find that at home as well. As you go through this, yes, it is challenging, but don't be afraid if you start falling over, if you start stepping off one leg, you usually lose your balance. These are all indications that you're challenging the nervous system, which when I say the nervous system, I just mean the whole body as a unit, to coordinate itself into the pattern we're trying to get to. So that's a bit of a challenge. Everything else, you got stability on the floor, and you should be able to do it with a bench. It's not so much challenging from that end. It's more challenging from a strength development, but this is now stability and mobility coexisting, try and execute a movement pattern. Okay, so then now we go on to, I said there's two posterior, and then the last two then become a plyo power sort of exercise. So these are the last two. So pogo hops, you've done the pogo hops with me before. Now we're trying to move dynamically with it. And all I mean by this is that we're moving up and down the room or wherever you are outside, wherever you might be. So the same rules apply. Hands across your chest on this one. The reason why I'm saying hands across the chest, because I'm going to demand more of the lower limb than the upper body. So again, the upper body can generate a lot of the force. So I'm saying hands across the body, and now you're going to move in that pogo. You're going to move up forward as you apply force to the floor. Yeah. So balls your feet again. So 10 reps. Fantastic. 10 reps. That's very good. Excellent. That's very good. So good repetition there. So what she did was balls her feet is the contact. Toes are always up when she's landing. And she's getting as high as she possibly can and minimizing that time on the floor. But at the minute, that's the high-end stuff. We just want you to get the movement right. So just think about balls of the feet is the floor, and toes are up once I land, or once I push off the floor, so I'm ready, prepared for the next landing. So it's 10 reps of this. Now, if you're really struggling with the momentum now, because we're now moving forward as well as moving upward, so there's horizontal and vertical forces that we need to absorb and apply. If you're struggling with that, just stay in one spot and continue doing that. But we wanted to provide a variation for anyone who's finding it very easy on the spot. So just start moving forward now. Okay, and the last one then is the broad jumps. Okay, so we're doing 3 repetitions on our broad jumps, but when we do 3 rounds of this, we'll end up doing 9 anyway, so it's quite a lot. So Annie's going to do a broad jump for me. This time you can use your hands, so we're going to use the upper body and the lower body together in sync. So jump as far forward as you can, and then stick the landing. Now when I say jump as far forward as I can, I mean jump as far forward as I can with good landing mechanics. Okay, so I don't want you to do a shallow jump. I want you to challenge yourself a little bit on the jump. But what can happen a lot of times is on the landing jump, she's got one more rep to do, but on the landing to do, you can land into a very much an extreme end position, and we don't want to see that really. We want to see you control the forces as you hit the floor. So Annie's landing in a perfect position, almost like a quarter squat. So we want to, or even near a full squat, but that's as far as we want you to go. So going into that position that I showed you at the end is not where we want you to land up into. So 3 repetitions of that, and just challenge the movement a little bit more. So maybe you jump a little bit further each time, as long as it's safely landing mechanics there. So as long as you get the errors, as long as you understand what the errors are and avoid them in your training, everything else should make sense to you, and you'll get a lot of benefit from the program. Those are all the exercises of this next week block, or next 2 weeks, I should say. Regress it and progress it how you're feeling. There's probably 3 scenarios here, where one is people are finding it perfectly and it's suiting them, absolutely fine, and keep doing what you're doing. Some may find it very easy. Just trust us that everything's going to be progressive. We want to start slow and build to a higher output in. And as we go through the phases, you'll see why we're trying to get movement foundations in. And the last one, you might be finding this very difficult. And if you are, just take your time with it. There's no rush to this. You don't have to follow how we're going through the next 2 weeks. You can repeat last week if you want to repeat last week. That's entirely up to you. Just ensure that the program you're driving yourself, you're feeling good about yourself, and you're feeling like it's benefiting you. So you aggress it and progress it as you see fit. Look forward to seeing you on the next time.